Bernadette came from an extremely poor family. Her father was a miller, and his business really failed for many reasons. So the family were obliged to move from accommodation to accommodation. Each time the new one that they moved was inferior to the previous. The family ended up in the end closer to that's where Bernadette spent her early years.
There you go.
She lived in Lourdes, apart from a very brief period that she spent in Bartres with her godmother. Otherwise she spent her time in Lourdes. And on the 11th of February, 1858, she and her sister and a friend went out to gather wood. And I think what is important for us to grasp at this moment is where Our Lady appeared to her. It was in, I don't know if you've seen pictures of the original grotto. It was described in some of the literature as a pigsty. It was a filthy hole, and that's where Our Lady chose to appear to Bernadette. Bernadette never felt proud of the fact that she was chosen by Our Lady. She was angry when with the authorities. You know that they didn't believe her. She was questioned and interrogated in all sorts of ways and manners. But Bernadette was quite a determined lady. She wasn't afraid of it. Everybody, very good. Now, if I drop my voice, tell me. Now, in 1866, in July 1866, Bernadette arrived from Lourdes, having decided to become a sister of Nevers. So, when she arrived here, the first thing she saw was Deus caritas est, God is love. And that's the motto or the emblem of the congregation. And living a life of love is not easy, as you all know, as family members or whatever. So Bernadette would have said that my mission in Lourdes is finished. Lourdes is not heaven. From now on, I am for God only. She wanted to give herself to God. Now you might ask, why did she decide to become a sister of Nevers? And it was because, possibly and primarily because of the experience of poverty in her own life. The Sisters of Nevers were very dedicated to looking after the poorest of the poor. And in Lourdes they had a hospice. Today we understand a hospice to be a place where people are terminally ill. Well, to a certain extent it was that as well, but also it was for the elderly, and they had school for small children that came from very, very poor backgrounds. So Bernadette, after the parish priest asked the sisters to take her in, she literally worked for the sisters. She wasn't taken in as a prospective postulant or sister. She worked for them. And she did all that needed to be done. She didn't have any qualification, but possibly they didn't either. The cures that were available in those days were very simple. The main ingredient in their care was love. So Bernadette joined them there, and she loved doing that. So it was with that in view that she joined the Sisters of Nevers. However, I'll tell you later on that she was to be disappointed, because when we become nuns, we make vows, and one is of obedience, and we don't choose where we go. So Bernadette set out on a new path in life, and she had to leave behind her the grotto, the Pyrenees, her family, everything else. And it's worth remembering that in those days, perhaps sisters never returned because Lourdes is a long way away and the mode of travel was so difficult and so Bernadette came here and died. So
the lady of the water.
will the people at the back hear me? Can you hear? Okay. So now the reason why we have come here, there are several reasons. And I'd start by telling you that in 1855-56, the house, the convent that you have seen, was built. Prior to that, the Sisters of Nevaeh had their convent and their novitiate in the middle of the town of Nevaeh, but it was too small, so they bought a site there and built that house. However, when they finished, they discovered that there was no water, so they had a big problem. So they prayed to Our Lady, and a source was found around there. And in thanksgiving, they built that little grotto, that little shrine, and put a statue of Our Lady in it. Can everyone hear? Yeah. So that was 10 years before Bernadette arrived. Then Bernadette came, and all the novices went to pray here to Our Lady. And when Bernadette saw that statue, she said she looked more like the lady that she saw in Lourdes than any other statue. As a matter of fact, Bernadette spoke to the artist who designed or created Our Lady of Lourdes, that statue. And for all her explanations, the statue that you have seen in Lourdes is very different to Our Lady here. Bernadette thought that her posture, her welcoming arms, resembled the lady that she saw in Lourdes. I might say also that the lady that Bernadette saw was very small, and that's interpreted as respect for Bernadette, who was extremely small. So that's how she came to be called Our Lady of the Waters, and Bernadette has spoken of her as looking more like any other statue of Our Lady that she has seen. Now I think the other important piece is that Bernadette went there every day that her health allowed her to pray. She went there every day to pray. So you're in that area that Bernadette prayed. So has everybody seen the statue? Do you want to go back? Anyone to ask it? Yeah. Are they okay now in terms of having understood?
Ja. Heeft iedereen het een beetje begrepen?
Maar ik denk sommigen niet, sommigen niet.
Nee, maar dat vertaal ik ook.
Ja.
Dat komt wel voor de bus. Ja.
Ja.
So now, can we start again, because I believe you have to leave at 12:30. So I explained later on why the statue was built down here, that little shrine. Can everyone hear me?
Iedereen verstaan?
Yes. It was built in thanksgiving for the water. Now the congregation always had a lot of devotion to St. Joseph. And when the house was finished, they built this little chapel in honour of St. Joseph. Bernadette had a lot of devotion to St. Joseph, so she came here as well every day to pray. Probably combined the visit here with the one to the Our Lady of the Waters. Now, when Bernadette died, there was a lot of concern about where she should be buried. The civil authorities were concerned that if she was buried in the town, in the main cemetery, where the Sisters of Nevers are buried, it would become a place of pilgrimage and it would create problems for traffic and all sorts of things. So it was decided that she should be buried in the grounds of the convent. So her body was laid to rest literally there in the middle. And the plaque that you can see on the wall there behind, I'll read it to you in a moment, it was on the ground, and only in very recent years it was lifted and put up there. So that's the significance of this chapel. St. Bernadette's body was laid to rest here from the time of her death until she was exhumed to investigate her sainthood. And so that's, as I say, the significance of here. I'll just read this to you. We're speaking of the present. It says, "He rests in peace, in the peace of the Lord, Bernadette Subiru, honoured at Lourdes in 1858 by several apparitions of the Blessed Virgin Mary. In religion, Sister Mary Bernard, who died in Nevers at the Mother House of the Sisters of Charity of Nevers on the 16th of April 1879. It was in the 36th year of her age and the 12th year of her religious life." And that's a quotation from Scripture. There were so many vocations. In her day, the house was full. Yeah. So now we're going over to the novitiate. There's something special about that. Was for lectures. The misters of novices or people who came to the lectures would have given them from here. So there would have been benches all along, no chairs in those days. As you can see, it has been converted into a chapel, because when there are various groups, it's used for Mass. The significance of bringing you here is that the day after Bernadette arrived, she was asked to tell the story of Lourdes, of the apparitions. And after that, she never spoke of them, and nobody ever asked her about them. You may know that Our Lady confided in her. There were 3 secrets that Bernadette never told anyone. So Bernadette, who didn't speak French, going back to the moment of the apparitions in Lourdes when she was being interrogated, one of the authorities would have said, "Did she speak to you in French?" And Bernadette would have responded, "What do you mean? You know I don't speak French." So it would have been in the local dialect that Our Lady would have spoken to Bernadette and revealed to her that she was the Immaculate Conception on the 25th of March. So Bernadette would have got up there and spoken to 200 sisters. That was no small ask for a little girl who came from the south of France and didn't speak French. So Bernadette would have attended her lectures here. Now the other very significant thing about this room, and it was just as significant in my time, was the day that we made profession. We made vows of poverty, chastity and obedience. We had the Mass in the morning and we made our vows there. So did Bernadette. In the afternoon, the bishop from this room gave us what we called our obediences. We were told where we were going. So the bishop would have sat there with the superior general on one side and the mistress of novices on the other. And each one would be called, and you were simply told, you, Mary, you're going to Japan. No one would ever have spoken to you about that, or you'd have no preparation for it. So Bernadette, everyone was called. Bernadette was left to the last. And when she was called, there was no obedience for her. Now the sad thing about it, at the gate, at the entrance, I said that Bernadette came, what she would enter the order for, in her own mind, was to look after the poor, but she was disappointed. Bernadette's mission was to pray, and she was to do that at St. Gildard. But combined with her prayers, she was sacristan, and she helped in the sick room, or the sick bay, which we're going to next, and it's the room that she died in herself. Indeed, spent a lot of time in during her life as a patient. So the significance then of this room would be she addressed 200 sisters, told them about what she had seen and heard in Lourdes, and she received her obedience from here. The infirmary of St. Vows. And here died Bernadette on the 16th of April, 1879. She was able to turn darkness into light.
verscheen in een grot, vol glans en vol luister, de moeder van God. Ave, Ave, Ave Maria, Ave, Ave, Ave Maria. Zij riep Bernadette, een nederig kind, wie zij